Ladies and gentlemen, very, very big welcome to week 8. We are today going to be talking about chapter 4, Agile Project Management, Managing for Success by Crowder and Fries. And today is going to be an important topic as usual. And the reason why is because we are going to be continue to go and build on the requirements of the assignment, the group assignment, what you guys need to go and be working on at any point of time, including the project management body of knowledge part of the assignment, as well as the agile part of the assignment. They're both very important to help us to go and ensure we are going to get the right outcomes. So please make sure you're paying attention. Please make sure you are going to be engaging in the activity I am going to be giving you today, because those activities are going to be building on what I covered with you guys last week and explain about what you need to go and do in terms of the assignment. So it's very important to continue building on all of this work that we need to go and do, and ask me if you have any questions. But the information we're providing should really help you to go and do well in your assignment. So I advise you to make sure you are going to basically apply every single thing I'm going to go and tell you. Today, I'm going to be speaking about the productivity tools for the modern team. I'm going to speak about preparing to be agile, and I'm going to speak about using Kanban. Now, you need to go and be using Kanban for your assignment. You need to be agile. You need to show me that you're using specifically, the Scrum approach of project management. I want to see how you guys are applying all of this information that I'm going to be giving you. And that's really relating to half of what you need to do for your assignment. In addition to the other half that I've explained between weeks 1 and week 6, that again, we need to go and make sure you guys are going to be applying as expected. So there are many, many activities. There are many opportunities for you guys to be engaging today as part of your work. And I need to make sure you guys are taking the minute to really spend the time and to really work on your assignment in details this week and next week. The week after, we need to make sure we're going to be working very, very hard to get the work to be done. Now, ladies and gentlemen, anybody could remind me what I spoke about last week? I presented to you this graph. What did I explain? Who can come and explain to me the concept of agile project management? What did I tell you? Anyone? I would like to go and see your involvement. What did I tell you last week about? Niraj?
Yes, sir.
What did I tell you? What do you remember from that graph that I showed you last week?
Yeah, as a project manager, it is a type of handling the project in such a way that all the requirements will be taken together and planned and designed, developed, and all this process will go on until unless all the requirements are fulfilled and iteration is done.
Okay, thank you very much, my friend. Giovanna.
Hi.
Hi, anything you can add?
Not really.
Okay, I want to ask you guys, what is this here?
The backlog.
Backlog. Why do we have numbers?
Priority.
Priority. Okay, correct. So we basically organize them based on priority. What is this?
First iteration or first priority?
Yeah, the first priority item we picked up from the backlog to be able to go and work on it and delivering that. And once we pick it up, what do?
We design, develop.
We plan how we're going to do it. We design, we develop, we test it, we evaluate it. And once we finish that iteration, what happens?
Second requirements.
Yeah, you can take other second requirements, start working on it, but you might even go and deploy it. You might say, okay, that's ready. I'm going to go and deploy it to my clients. So either of these could happen. Sometimes you might be having to go and deliver more than one iteration, and then you accumulate them and then you deploy them at the same time. But bottom line, when I finish all of these things, we need to go and create a deployment. What does deployment mean?
Taking it to the client.
Yeah. So basically making it live.
Yes.
Okay. So sending it to a production environment. It's going to become basically live. It's no longer going to be in a testing environment. It's going to be live for the customers, for the client to be able to go and really use it. So that's what we've explained in terms of the project management, agile project management approach in a nutshell. We're going to build on that, guys. There's so many tools we are going to be using. If we are agile managers or agile project managers, if we are agile developers, there are all of these tools I need to go and use. And a lot of these tools are potentially off-the-shelf tools. They are available as is, and I'm going to go and use them and apply them accordingly. One of those tools, for example, if I'm going to go and show you one tool, I can go and show you the tool of, if I show you here, Trello. And if I go and say, I would like to go and open a particular board, and I say, I would like to go and open, I don't know, week 10 board or whatever board I want to go and do. It's a week 10 board or sample board. Okay, sample board, week 10 board. Okay, so you can see there's all of these various boards that we can go and open. So you can see this is an example of a Kanban board. So when I say this is Kanban board, it's basically showing me graphically what we need to go and do. Show me a backlog, show me sprint 1 stages, show me in a sprint 2 stages, and show me at the end what we are going to be releasing. So there's a release section, there's a sprint 2 section, there's a sprint 1 section, and there's a product backlog section that we need to go and really bear in mind. So if I was to go back to this board, you know, these sort of tools, these sort of systems, you know, if I was to go and show you another tool that is really very famous, if I go to Jira, and that's another approach, and this is basically how you're using the same thing in Jira. Again, you're having all of these stages. Again, you can move things across various stages. And this particular application, Jira, is very much used in real life. And it's basically used in many companies because it's by a company called Atlassian. It's one of the biggest companies in the provision of, you know, these sort of agile project management tools. If I go and show you Atlassian share price, it is basically started, it's a $354 share price for that company. It's a very worldwide company that is available, and that's American dollars, not even a normal dollars. So there's a lot of other stuff. You can see that there are sections for issues, all of these open issues that people need to go and work on, all of these I don't know, backlog items. You can create your backlog, all of these stories you would like to go and create. You can check everything on the board. If you would like to see everything on the board, you can do that. You can go and run reports. You can, there's very important reports like a burn down chart, burn up chart. These charts basically show you how we are really progressing in terms of the work, you know, how much work is actually progressing and being, you know, followed and completed throughout the actual project. So sprint reports, you know, velocity, how quickly we are moving. All of these are things we can go and try to create. There's so many various tools available here, but obviously this is much more than what you guys are using in terms of Trello. But I think Trello is also owned by them, by you know, Atlassian. But at least bottom line, you can see that there is an option available, and there are many tools available there for you to be able to go and really use. So there are many tools. They are designed to work with all of these things we're teaching you in a Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, which is a mix of both of them. We basically have all of these tools that are available. And, you know, these tools, what will happen, they happen with, you know, product and sprint backlog management. So if I go and look again on what I show you here, they basically help you to go and see what is your backlog and managing that backlog. They'll help you to go and really click on that backlog. They'll help you to go and potentially, put information. What is the priority of that backlog? What's high, what's medium. It'll help you to go and you can see them now. Oh, this is, high priority. It's a 1. Straight away, you can see it. Okay, what about this one here? Well, I'm going to go and change that. And I say, well, I'm going to make it a low priority. You can see straight away on these symbols what is high, what is low. So they help you to go and manage a backlog, all of these stories that are in the backlog, and they help you to go and manage a sprint. Sprints is what people are actually working on. And you can create more than one sprint to be able to go and work on any particular item. So if you want to go and work on an item, you'll be able to go and really select what you would like to go and work on. So if I go to the backlog, I might say now, or I would like to go and assign this one, and I would like to go and assign this to, it's already in sprint 1, it's already assigned. I want to go here, I want to move this, and I want to assign this to something else. I want to go and assign it instead of sprint 2, I want to move it to sprint 1. So you can see how, it's automatically moved to sprint 1. So you know what you're doing in terms of the first sprint. And when I go to the sprint, I'll be able to see that all of these items are in my sprint that we need to go and do. Like sprint 5 is now here. That's something I need to go and really go and ensure I'm going to be completing. But bottom line, you see how there is a section for the sprints. You can create all of these, other stages for the sprint. You can, to do, in progress, done. You can change the naming. If you would like to go and add, an extra column, you probably could add an extra column. So there's many options that are really available there for you that you'll be able to go and work on. You can see the backlog, you can see the active, you can see the reporting, and that's really, so many reports available, but it's bottom line really commenting on what is available. They help you to go and see the product and in a sprint backlog. They help you to go and do sprint planning. How can I go and really plan for my sprint? So let me go and look, for example, on a particular sprint. I have this sprint here. I can click on that sprint and can say, all right, for that, I can click on the sprint. I can click on that activity. And then what I would say is, all right, I want to go and I want to make changes. I want to, for example, if I want to go and assign a time, just want to try to see where it's saying the time that is available. It's not showing me the issue. This is a trial version. So this is not the full version of the system. So it might not have every single functionality is actually available here. But I'm trying to see here what I can do. So if I'm going to go and try to create a to-do list in progress, that's why, because it's already listed as to do, and I want to go and add, and let's say I want to log work, and I would like to say I'm basically spent planning session, and I can basically say it's going to basically start it here. It's going to go and finish at 6 p.m. Time remaining is, let's say, 2 days. 2 weeks. All right. So you're basically putting all of this time, it's telling you automatically. You need to log a time in the format of 2 weeks. All right, 2 weeks, 4 days, 6 hours, 45 minutes, 2 weeks. Four days, hours, 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to see how we're going to be able to go and save the time. But it's not allowing me to go and do that in this one. But just don't worry about it because it's just actually the trial version. That's probably why I can't do it. But I'm just trying to go and show you in summary what, the functionality that is usually available in Slack. I'm going to try to have another look at it later. Sorry, in Jira. But bottom line, what you need to be using, you need to be using this one. This one, you can go and add the dates. So if I want to go and say I need to finish it at that time, I need to have reminders before. If I would like to go and set any checklist to make sure something is being done, I can create checklists. For example, you could create checklists to say, planning checklists. You might then say, all right, planning section 1, planning section 2. And then eventually what will happen when you add all of these items, you can basically go and highlight when they're finished. That's basically a highlight for you that the actual activity that you've planned to go and do has actually been completed. That's really what the system allow you to go and do in terms of putting all of these items and putting due dates and creating stories and moving the stories that I really want you to go and really be bearing in mind as part of your work. But bottom line is the systems allow you to go and put, sprint planning to plan what we're going to need to go and do, to all of these timelines for the work to do. It allows you to go and capture daily Scrum meeting. The daily Scrum meeting is a meeting during which we have to go and really communicate to people and try to understand 3 things. We need to try to understand what they have already worked on. We have to understand what they are going to be working on today. And we need to understand any issue that is really preventing them from achieving the progress that they would like to go and achieve. So when I go and talk, for example, about things such as the issues they are experiencing, I can add that issue and relate it to the product backlog. Or if I'm talking here about, let's say Jira, you can create an issue section. I can go and basically say, I would like to go and create a new problem now in relation to that particular issue. And then we'll be able to go and really manage that particular issue. So, these issues are created previously all, and I can add description of the issue, whatever information. This is an issue. You'll be able to go and save all of these issues, and you'll be able to have track of all of these issues that we currently have that we need to go and really manage. So you can see all of these my open issues. These are things we need to go and manage now. You can see things reported to me. You can see any open issues. Sorry. So guys, yes, you can see all of these issues. You can see all issues that are available, anything that is open, anything that is reported to me, anything that is done. You can see all of this information. You can easily track it. And those issues are really related directly to what we basically go and have during that meeting, what we call the daily Scrum meetings, where we might have issues and we need to go and report them. We capture sprint retrospectives. What have we actually learned about, what we're doing that is great and what we're doing that is not great, and that needs to go and really be improved. We need to go and think about the sprint release management. When is something going to go and really be released for our clients? So, all of these things. So you can see, for example, here, there's a release section. You can say, I want to create, I don't know, a particular release 1, and you can describe, when it's going to start, or, when it's going to end. And you can say it's going to end on this time, a release of module 1. And you'd be able to go and create all of these items you would like to go and release. And, you can then, add information relating to those releases. So it's really about planning. What are we going to be doing at a particular point of time in terms of the work we do? But you can release it again as part of that application and highlight what are we going to be releasing now. You probably will be releasing, let's say you finish sprint 1, you want to release this work. You basically try to release that, or sprint 2 or sprint 3 or whatever you would like to go and really release. You have all of these graphics, burn down chart, burn up chart, release metrics. And this is again that I told you about. If you go and see if I go here and try to make reports, you see so many various reports that are available. Burn down chart, track the total work remaining, and project the likelihood of achieving the sprint goal. This helps your team manage its progress and respond accordingly. Burn up chart, track the total scope independently from the total work done. This helps your team manage your progress. So you can see all of these various items. You can do velocity, track the amount of work completed from sprint to sprint. Have we been able to go and finish more work in one sprint and then less work in another sprint? We'll be able to track. But there's all of these various reports, and what they do is basically they help you to go and track what is basically happening at any point of time. You can see, for example, the issues and make report about all of these issues that are available. You can forecast when you're going to be completing particular work. You can, look at the user workload. How much are they working? Are they working more than 40 hours a week? You have all of this reporting that is available, and that is all embedded into one single tools that you go and actually use. The same for the, developer. They are using a lot of, very similar things. Like, again, they're going to capture the daily Scrum meeting. Again, they're going to capture their perspective. Again, they need to go and have release management. Again, they need to have all of these burn down charts, but really other things that really are available. Extreme programming, which is one of the approaches of programming we can use as part of developing softwares, but also the tool allows collaboration, allows cooperation, allows development. People are working together. People are basically sharing things from one person to another person. I can go to this tool and I say, all right, what I'm going to do now, I am going to go and assign this work to, I don't know, there's no other members here, but if there were other members, I could basically go and say, I want to assign it to someone else, and I can select the name. I'll show you, for example, another example that I'm working on. If you go and see here, I can say, all right, I would like to go and change this. And I would like to go and assign a new member, and I can choose any member for me to go and actually particularly go and do a particular task. So you can change the members that are going to be assigning to various work. You can add notes, you can add activities, you can add checklists, you can add due dates, you can add attachments, you can add whatever you believe is going to be needed to be able to go and really get the job to go and be done. So it really facilitates all of this collaboration, because we can see, a user story could be moving from one person to another person. You can basically send messages to other people within the system to get them to do something. Hey, Fadi, just do this particular job. You basically go and engage and ensure you are communicating with all of those people to be able to ensure the job is being completed as we expect it to be completed. Do you have any question about any of this so far? Any questions at all? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have all of these various stages of the work that we need to go and do. The first thing is we need to go and know about what we're trying to go and do. We have a product, we have a project. We need to understand what is the actual objectives, that I am going to be achieving from that product that we're trying to go and do. What is the objective the product will need to go and fulfill? What is the product goal? What is the product charter? What is the actual elevator pitch that I'm going to be presenting to people to convince them that what I'm actually delivering is going to go and be adding value and is going to go and really be important? We need that information. I'll show you an example of how do you go and create the actual project charter to be able to go and ensure the job is actually being completed. So we'll talk about a charter, and we'll show you what we need to do very, very shortly. We need to go and think about the product first of all, and what are we trying to go and do? And then we need to see, all right, this product, we're going to go and try to release that product. How can we release a value in terms of that product or that project we're doing? How can we increase it incrementally? How can we really increase it, release it as part of various sort of releases, release 1, release 2, release 3, and so on? What subset of the objective will each release achieve? Because we're going to have all of these goals and objectives up there. And every release will basically help us to go and get one objective to be delivered. What user constituencies will the release serve? There are many, many various users, and we need to try to go and really serve them. Who are we going to be serving with every single release? What general capabilities, the big stories will the release offer? What's a release roadmap? What's a release plan? And then from there, we need to go from that, release that might involve many sprints, which is many potentially big features together. We're going to move to various iterations, and every iteration will be delivering multiple stories that will basically add up to that big story or big feature we're trying to go and deliver. So you need to go and pick up all of these items and all of these big requirements and big features, and we need to start kind of delivering those features one after the other using particular iterations. So you go and have this, what specifically will we build? We're talking about particular user stories, which is what you guys need to go and write for me as part of this assignment. How will this iteration move us towards the release objective, this release here? We say we're releasing, 3 big features. Okay, great. How is this going to move me to the release objective? What is my iteration plan? Which is what am I going to do within this usually 2 to 4 weeks timelines that I go and create to be able to go and get the job done? What are the tasks of development that people need to go and do to be able to help us reach the objectives we would like to go and reach? And you go all the way. For this sprint to be delivered, there are all of these stories, individual stories. What user or stakeholder need will this story serve? How will it specifically look and behave? How will we determine if it's completed? All of these story details and acceptance criteria. And last week I told you to write the story, and I told you before you write the story, you have to go and decide who is the user of that particular story. And then after you write the story, after you've already identified who is the user, I told you need to go and write acceptance criteria, which help us to go and verify that the outcomes we would like to go and actually achieve has actually been achieved. So that's really what we need to go and really look at. So we get from that, the product high level, the objective, to the release, which is about many big stories that needs to go and be delivered, to a story, which is a sprint, which is a story, one or multiple stories we are going to be delivering within that sprint. And you go all the way to the smallest level, the backlog item, which is all of these stories we need to go and write, which are linked to very specific users and have particular acceptance criteria that help us to go and ensure the work has been delivered as we need it to go and be delivered. Now, if you look here, we're talking about a charter. You need to go and create a project charter. What is a project or product charter? The project charter or the product charter, it really contains a particular items. First of all, the vision. Why are we actually doing that particular project? It is really the higher purpose. It's the reason why this project actually exists in the first instance. We would like to go and improve customer satisfaction. All right, great. That's our vision. That's what we're trying to go and do. What's the mission? This is what of the project. It states what will be done to achieve higher purpose. If we would like to go and achieve higher customer satisfaction, what do I need to go and do for me to be able to go and really reach that particular goals? Success criteria. We need to go and have tests that describe the effects outside of the solution itself. How do we basically know that that particular project is actually a success or it's not the success? How are we going to go and make that judgment according to the requirements we're trying to go and really go and deliver? Additional elements we can go and bear in mind include things like, the working practices. How are we going to go and plan? How are we going to go and estimate? How are we going to go and actually go and define that something has basically been completed? How we are going to go and really track the progress of various items? How are we going to go and create test-driven development to be able to go and ensure we are delivering what basically we need to go and deliver at any point of time? So we need to go and go through all of these steps and go and actually make sure, highlight all of these various practices that are basically important. We need to go and have all of these continuous integration. You know, when I go and say, you know, about the work we need to do, it's about really integration time limits. So there's going to be a time by which I need to go and be integrating the work, for example, across more than one iteration, more than one sprint. I need to go and integrate that task that I need to go and do. I need to break the actual build into pieces. I need to go and do a code check-in to ensure that the code is basically, you know, meeting the quality that is expected. You know, we need to go and use some practices like, you know, paired programming, which is two people are basically coding next to each other, or not next to each other. There's two people working together to write the code. And a lot of time you have one person coding and one person looking at the code to make sure they can find any issues. And then they basically swap. The other person start coding, and then the first person goes and start basically monitoring what the other person is doing. So you have what we call paired programming. You can have people owning the code. It's your code. You need to make sure it's coming to the right quality without us having any issue. What about documentation? We need to go and present. You basically go and report about that in terms of the charter. We need to have iterative and incremental development. And we have this iteration cycle and development cycle. So every iteration you have to say, well, how long is it going to be? Well, if, for example, I'm releasing every 4 weeks, every 12 weeks, you might say, well, I'm going to have 3 iterations, and every iteration is going to be a period of 4 weeks. Because by doing that, you know, you are basically timing the releases in alignment with how long your iterations are going to be at a particular point of time. You need to define the vision. You know, what is the name of the project or product you are making? Who is it for? When will it be done by? What will it actually do? What will it not actually do? What benefits your business will get from doing it? And what benefits will your consumers go and really get from doing it? So going back, it's really linking about that vision part that I'm talking about here. So you need to try to get a vision, a mission, all of these items as part of your charter. And what you need to bear in mind in terms of the vision, it needs to be in a way that anybody is able to understand what you are actually planning to go and deliver. It needs to be very, very simple, that anyone able to go and understand what are we trying to go and really deliver for our clients. We need to build teams, and the teams in Agile are different than teams outside Agile. In Agile, you need to have whole teams. You're not going to go and rely on any members outside of that team. So the people you're going to work with need to have all the skills inside the team to ensure the job is going to go and be done. If we need testing, if we need database, if we need programming, if we need user interface, whatever we are going to be needing, we are having someone within the team who have that capability and is able to go and really get the job we would like to go and really deliver. And that's a very, very important concept that is different than traditional project management, where you might not actually go and have all the actual skills, or all the actual teams that you need to be able to go and get the job done. Agile teams are formed mostly of generalizing specialists, sometimes who knows and is a specialist in any particular area. So if I go, for example, and talk about programming, someone who is basically specialist in Java programming, someone who's specialist in project management, someone who is specialist in database administration, whatever we need in terms of people skills, we basically needs to go and really make sure we're going to go and have within our particular team. So we need to really bear all of that in mind. Actively seek new knowledge. So if we need basically people who are actually having different knowledge, we need to basically actively go and seek all of these new skills relating to all of these existing specialties, as well as any other area of specialties. We need people to go and have for us to be able to go and get the job done. And when I say expertise, you might talk about technical expertise, you might talking about any other expertise that might be needing any particular domain of knowledge. I don't know, business analysis, for example, or whatever area that is going to go and be needed. One very important thing about the Agile team is they must be stable. Why? Because the sprint lasts for about 4 weeks. During those 4 weeks, if we're going to go and change the team members in that team, what's going to happen is it's going to go and create and make the team becoming unstable. And that instability is going to go and result in us not being able to go and potentially finish all the requirements of the sprint on time. So really need to go and really think about all of these various, people and how we're going to go and maintain them to be stable at any particular point of time. If we change them, we are actually affecting the success of a sprint that we're trying to go and deliver. So let's try to keep them stable. Let's go and actually make sure we're not going to change a lot, because that will help ensure that those specialists that we have are able to go and complete the work that we want them to go and really complete. On the other hand, if I'm going to keep on changing the people that I'm working with during the actual a sprint delivery, we are going to be facing with that issue where things might be delivered late. And if a sprint is not delivered within time, you basically means you haven't met your objective. The sprint, it doesn't matter what it is, you need to deliver something that is working at the end of that particular sprint. We need to create a backlog. And that backlog is really the set of all of these requirements we need to go and do. And when I talk about create a backlog, it's something that goes and really replaces all of these detailed requirements we usually go and we try to go and deliver. We need to form a shopping list of all of these ideas and all of these features that are meaningful for the business, things that people basically want. And because we're talking about the things that the business really wants, it is actually a user-centric. So we need to go and ensure whatever we are going to be delivering, it is built based on what the user really asked me to go and do at a particular point of time. It's really a summary of what we need to go and really deliver to the clients. And that summary needs to go and be organized in a particular manner that really goes and makes sure it clarifies and it explains what is of highest priority and what is of a lower priority. When I create the backlog, I need to go and define the primary functionality. It's really a summary list of what is needed to go and produce the project vision. Think about each step of the customer journey and think about what are we going to go and do. For every step, they're going to log in, they're going to do this, they're going to send reports, they're going to transfer money, they're going to pay bills, whatever they're going to do, they're going to send messages. Think about all of these summary of all of these functionalities that we need to go and do. What is the vision? What are we trying to go and do? And what steps the customer need to go and follow to be able to go and get some particular outcomes to go and be delivered. From all of these, we need to create a feature groups. Once we know the workflow, once we know the step-by-step, we need to gather ideas about what is actually done within each step of that journey that we spoke about. When I go and think about what needs to be done across one particular step, when I add them together, it basically, if I look at, the step that is going to go and help me to go and run reports, it helped me to go and deliver that feature, that functionality of the steps. And that basically become a big feature group that I'm trying to go and deliver. So think about all of these main functionality, think about what we're trying to go and do. Think about the stages that the customers needs to go and really go through to be able to get the job done. And think about throughout those steps, what are all of those features that we need to be able to ensure the client is able to go and really do. So we collect all of those features and we try to go and start organizing them. We organize them in terms of priority of all of those features. When I talk about all of these priorities, we talk about, we use a value statement in the project vision, and we talk about the common business sense, which priorities are the most valuable for our clients that we need to go and really bear in mind. We need to think about those priorities and work accordingly. Once we know what is the priority of all of these features that I've already created in step number 2, I need to go and try to use, identify what we call the first delivery, which what we call minimum viable product. In other words, which features we need to go and really work and deliver for us to be able to go and really we get the job to be completed. So we need to go and refer to this minimum viable product, which is a list of all of these chunk of ideas or chunk of features that we need to go and combine together. And only when I combine them together, I am able to go and really get something that is working to the customer. For example, if I'm going to go and deliver an application that does internet banking, if I go and create the feature to go and log in, yes, it's great that they can log into the system, but that log into the system is not really the feature. It's not really, so what if they can log in? If they can't get the job done, then we haven't really managed to go and get any outcome. So you say, oh, I'm making sure they can log in. I'm making sure they can go and open an account, and I'm making sure they can see the transaction. These 3 things combined tell me this basic feature is now being completed. That minimum viable product that the client is able to do something with is what I'm trying to go and really deliver at that point of time. Any questions, guys? All right, guys. Now we need to pin down the acceptance criteria, and that's what you guys have started to really think about last week. If I am going to say, I would like to go and have a feature. If the feature says, as a bank client, I want to be able to log into the application so that I can go and transfer money to suppliers. Okay, great. How do we ensure that that feature has been actually completed? We need to create what is known as the acceptance criteria. In other words, what needs to go and happen for me when I go and show the client what is basically what they're doing, I can basically show them and see and confirm that the work that they wanted to do has been really completed. So how do we know when the work is actually done? That's really the acceptance criteria. Now, it is very, very important to really know when we need to go and stop. And that's really the acceptance criteria. What is the boundaries of the work? How much do I need to go and do for the job to be accepted? There's no point for me to try to do more than what is needed for the job to be accepted, because that simply is going to be meaning I am going to be wasting a lot of my time and resources on doing something that is really not needed. So once you write a user story, which is what you guys started writing last week for your assignment, we need to know the acceptance criteria, the requisites that have to be met for a story or feature in that story to be assessed as it has been really completed. They can take many, many forms. Okay, simple condition of satisfaction, all the way through to rigorous and very exact checklists. They must be doing this. They might log into the system. They must select to run a report. They must, be able to successfully run the report. This, checklist. You might go and say, I want to do it as a checklist. Now, for the purposes of Agile, simple binary statements written in plain language are the best place to go and do. The customer must be able to go and run the report. It's simple. It's nothing really complicated. It needs to be very, very simple. And we need to go and make sure when we write the features, they also need to go and be very simple. It's not like, yes, maybe no. It has to be, did it happen or did it not happen? There's no mid yes, mid no. It's either happened or it actually did not really go and happen. Now we need to go and really manage risk and manage expectation when we're working in an Agile environment. The first thing we need to go and bear in mind is we cannot go and try to change too much too frequently. Okay, we need to go and stick to the practices we know that they work. And if we want to make some improvement in our practices, we gradually go and make those improvements. We basically test that things do work, and then we start to make adjustments as we go and move along from there. We must always communicate to our team, communicate to us, Scrum Master, communicate to the product owner, communicate even to the clients. You need to go and continue communicating with all the right people. If you are doing a job, you need to show them that what you've done. You need to see whether they like what you've done. You need to go and show them the features, the improvements, and you basically start moving along from there. You need to avoid large items, because a large item is hard to understand, and a large item might not actually be able to be done within the duration of your sprint, which is usually between 2 and 4 weeks. So if you have a big feature that someone needs you to go and actually present and deliver, you need to try to go and break that down, that feature, into smaller pieces, something that is more easy for us to manage, and we can confirm that the outcome we wanted to go and deliver has been actually delivered. Keep talking. The best way to manage Agile is to always try to go and talk and have conversation with all the people around you. If you're not sure about something, speak to your team. If you're not sure about the feature, go and speak to the product owner. If you're not sure about the feature, speak to the Scrum Master, and try to go and get the verification, and try to speak and make sure you are getting the knowledge that you need to be able to go and get the job done. When I talk about backlogs, they are really the foundation of the project. If you don't list your features correctly, you basically don't know what you are going to be delivering. If you don't prioritize your features correctly, you might be working on something that is not the priority feature that you would like to go and work on at a particular point of time. So the backlog has to be a document that keeps on changing, keep on adding to it, because as you go and find more things and more issues and more requirements, you need to go and add all of these to your backlog, and you need to go and continue to prioritizing all of these features that are in the backlog. We need to be able to go and see what is actually coming up. We need to go and reduce the risk. We need to go and tell people, okay, I can go and do that particular work for you, but I can't go and do that work for you. So you need to go and set expectations, and those expectations must go and must be very realistic. We must keep the backlog up to date. If there are new features and I forgot to put that feature, or if I go and put that feature and I don't put the priority of that feature, it's going to go and result in us working and doing work that is actually not meeting the priority that we have at a particular point of time. At the start of a project, a backlog is usually full of functional requirements. This feature, that feature, that feature, and so on. But as you start moving throughout the project, there might be other things added to the backlog. There might be, for example, all of these issues. There might be all of these testing requirements that you might go and actually add as part of your backlog. But bottom line is, the backlog must be visible to everybody and must also show all the work visibly that needs to be completed. People need to go and see the work that needs to be done. What are the problems? What are the faults? What are the non-functional requirements? What are the improvements we need to do? What are the enhancements we need to do? What are the new features we need to go and deliver? Everything needs to be written down and prioritized in a way that we know exactly at any point of time what is really important and what is not important for us to go and do in terms of the priority. Now, we started speaking about the Kanban last week, and I told you the Kanban is like a board. It's basically exactly what I showed you here. That is a board, and that board shows you a list of all of this work that needs to be done and the stages that this work needs to go and actually proceed through. That's basically showing you all of that information, all the way until we go and reach a stage where there is a release that's going to go and be delivered. So you need to go and create that sort of signboard or billboard that really shows me what work needs to go and be done. This basically Kanban started as life as a scheduling system in the motor industry. It's basically was just trying to go and schedule when we need to order new inventory for our organization to be able to go and continue producing cars, because it was actually used in Toyota as a sign that we need to go and open and order new inventory for our organization. So it really started as a scheduling system in the motor industry. It's now one of the fastest growing areas in the agile market, and how we can go and use that signboard to create visibility about the work that we're doing at any particular point of time. It is very, very easy to create a board. It takes 5 minutes to go and create it as part of the Trello tool that I told you to go and create last week. It costs you pretty much nothing, because if you basically have, I think, up to 100 users, some of them offer you, you basically could go and use that system for free. But a big advantage is that it can be used by individuals or teams to manage their workload. They can see their project, they can see what is happening, they can see the visibility, they can see what other people are working on, they can see what other work is prioritized in the backlog, and they know at any point of time to keep tracking of how things are actually progressing throughout the project. Now, at the heart of everything in Kanban is basically things start with to do, and they finish up with basically being done. So we start with all of these things, you know, from A to Z, all of these items, we put them in the priority, and we start working all the way through. We basically start with what we know, you know, how we basically go and do things. We encourage team to begin with how we're doing things at the moment. And we start consulting with all the people, and we start making improvements to how we are operating through a consultation with all of those people who are working on our project. Any change we do is basically consensual. People are happy to go and implement that change, and we'll make sure we are delivering things that is basically considered to be of value to those people we're going to go and really work on. We are increasing the likelihood of enthusiastically adopting Kanban. We want everyone to go and adopt it in an enthusiastic manner, because we want them to be involved, and we want them to go and be part of that decision making to be able to go and do a particular job. So there are many, many guiding principles. We start with what we do at the moment, how we are currently delivering things in a project. We agree to pursue incremental changes and evolutionary changes. So let's not continue doing the same thing over and over again. Let's find a way for us to be able to go and insert some evolution into our processes, making a lot of those changes. Let's respect the current process. Let's respect people's roles, responsibilities, and titles. And let's go from there by taking the buy-in of all of those people, start working on getting all of this work to be done and created visually that shows all the work that we need to go and really do. There are 5 key steps of implementing Kanban. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 key steps of implementing Kanban. The first thing we need to bear in mind is we need to go and manage the flow of work. We need to make sure that the work is moving quickly, smoothly from the various stages. And when we talk about the stages, we could, you know, name them to do to done, which is this. We can name the stages like this, to do, and we name the other stage done. Or we can name the stages when it's relating to what we're doing now in terms of all of these software development. We could try to go and name it differently. So if I go here, for example, instead of naming it as to do, I can name it as, I don't know, planning, designing, developing, testing, and then completing. So we basically choose names that are more relevant and more appropriate from an agile project management or from a IT project perspective, if you want. So you need to try to move things across all of these stages. And as we move along, we try to go and maximize value to the client in the shortest possible time and the shortest possible cost. We keep on actually repeat all of these tasks over and over again. We try to make things consistently in terms of the process, because it help us to go and start working in a very efficient manner. The second thing is we need to make the process explicit. You know, an unambiguous statement of how work gets done is essential for any objective review. You know, we need to basically make sure that people know, when we first come, we need to create the stories. We need to create the backlog, then we need to create the stories, and we need to go through the steps, and we need to go and finish. We need to make a sprint planning, then we need to make a sprint retrospective, then we need to go and make the release. So you need to kind of think about that process that everyone will need to go and work through, and to ensure that the job has been done. We need to have all of these checkpoints to ensure that the work we want to be done is actually being done. We need to go and actually improve collaboratively. And when I say collaboratively, it basically moves from one stage to another stage. So we basically, work as a team. If there is a feature that needs to go and be done, or work story that needs to be done, and that work story cannot be done by the team member who was working on it, instead of leaving that person to go and struggle by himself, you need to go and help that person to go and solve that problem. Because if you don't help that person to go and solve that problem, what's going to happen is the whole feature and the whole delivery is going to go and really start having an issue. The whole thing is actually not going to go and be delivered as we basically go and expect it to go and be delivered. So we need to go and improve collaboratively to be able to go and really ensure the job is actually being completed. We initially go and not, put a cap, not more than 2 tasks per person, because we want to try to go and make sure that, there's no flow issues. If we go and see, for example, that someone is not actually progressing, then basically it's going to be, we need to go and understand why are things not actually being progressing at a particular point of time, that we need to go and, manage. Kanban is basically great for getting off to a low risk, zero cost, agile, fast start. We need to start very, very quickly, and we need to start at a very low risk very, very quickly. We need to pin down existing workflow. And if there's a problem with how things are moving across the flow, it's basically help us to go and see all of these errors very, very easily. We need to go and control the multiple pieces of all of these unconnected work that we need to go and do, and try to manage them accordingly. We need to go and keep the number of jobs in play down to an acceptable level. We're not going to go and have in one stage 5, 6, 8 user stories, because what's going to happen then if you keep on allowing people to add items and features to the user stories, it's going to go and basically start having what we call a block. So if you're going to go and put this and put this and put this and put this and put everything, keep on adding everything, what's going to happen, you will have so many items in one section that is basically being worked on, but you're not actually completing the work. You're leaving the work to be completed 99% instead of being 100% completed at a particular point of time. So we go and we do it in that particular manner. We keep the number of jobs in play to an acceptable level, and we get the team into an agile way of thinking. We basically get the team to start thinking, how can I go and try to be flexible? How can I go and start adding more work very quickly, and allowing changes to go and be incorporated when we are actually going and meeting the customer's requirements. Now, this is a sample board. It looks visually. You can name it task not started, task in progress, and task that is basically done. And things basically move across all of these various stages, how you basically move them across. So you could have all of these, various stages that we go and work on. But as you've noticed, the names that I've used, instead of use not started, in progress, and done, I use different naming here. The reason why I use different naming is because it is much more appropriate for us to use a different name, more suitable name if you want, something that basically makes sense, and align with the features of what we call the IT projects, like planning, designing, developing, and testing, are much more better sort of naming conventions than going and saying something along the line as, we're going to name the stage not started, in progress, and then I'm going to name the other one to go and be done. Now, there is that group activity, which is relating to the users that I asked you to go and talk about last week. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to Moodle, and I'm going to go back to explain a number of concepts relating to that assignment. I want to remind you guys all that if you go and see an assignment, it is available under the page, and you go and see 3 sample assignments that are available. So I really encourage you to go and look at those samples before you go and proceed with anything at all. That's one thing I want you to go and be looking at. The second thing I want you to go and be looking at is your subject outline, which basically clearly stipulate to you the things that we need to go and really be working on for the project to go and really be completed. So if I go and look here, there is, assessment 2, which is a midterm. We've already done that. And there's assessment 3. That assessment is worth 40%. And that assessment clearly giving you some details about the work to be done, giving you an objective, which is we need to go and implement a content management system based website that is reusable later by other sporting organizations. We are talking about all of these various modules. So there are tasks and there are things that needs to be delivered. And we are talking about particular outcomes that needs to go and be delivered. Now, there are 4 questions. The first question here is talking about the 5 PIM book phases of project management. So we're talking about creating the charter, the plan, the budget, the schedule, the risk management, to be able to go and name a few. The second concept is what we talk about is the agile project management. We create a backlog. We create various sprints. We create, the use of Trello. We use Jira or Trello or Kanban. So we basically go and use this. We need to go and use Slack for all the communication, which is what I've explained last week. And we need to go and apply everything to do with agile project management, including creating new user stories, creating acceptance criteria, defining new users, thinking about the different stages of agile project management, just to name a few, and creating the project charter, just to name a few. Then you need to go and compare both PIM book and agile and make sure you are discussing the features, how they go and work, how they affect the running of the projects, all of these features. Then we're going to discuss a question about ethics. Now, I gave you a very clear structure in terms of what you need to do. And there's, you can see task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. These are relating to all of those 4 questions that are relating to the assignment we would like to go and really do. Now, there's also a presentation that needs to go and be done for me, 10-minute presentation. That is a group presentation, so you need to go and be working together, and you will need to be evaluating each other's work. So if we have a group where people are not working, this is going to go and be marked down, and their mark of that group is going to go and be affected accordingly. Now, the marking criteria is very, very clear. If you think about the presentation, it's worth 7 marks, but you go and see that, we need to go and be doing an introduction, task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, that needs to go and ensure are going to go and be done. So bottom line, there are all of these things here. There are requirements that I need to go and do. Now, to be able to go and do them, there are a number of sample assignments that we went and we presented for you that you are able to go and look at. So if I go and open that page again, you'll be able to go and see that we have those assignments that I would like you to go and access. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but one person asked me about, okay, I'm just a bit confused. I'm not sure about what I need to go and do. We're a bit struggling. Could you help us? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go again to that particular assignment. I'm going to explain one assignment in details to give you the ability to understand exactly what needs to go and be done. So I need you to go and make sure you are very, very attentive to every single thing I'm going to be explaining now. So ladies and gentlemen, the first thing is your cover sheet. You need to make sure that has been done. The second thing is your executive summary, which comes before your table of content. You create a summary about the work that has basically been done. Then you create a table of content. You see how this example here is talking about executive summary here? That should not be here because a table of content will never list an executive summary. They're providing good things like a list of tables, list of figures. They're numbering the chapters. They're putting numbers, 1.1, 1.2, and so on. That's nice. That's good. So it doesn't have to be chapters, but you can kind of name it 1.0, 1.1, and so on. For the project management body of knowledge, which is the first question, they're doing project initiation. They're doing a charter, a plan, which is basically required a work breakdown structure, a Gantt chart, a timeline, a budget, a risk assessment. They spoke about execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing the project. So they basically spoke about the 5 stages of project management, which is good. And then they started applying the learning. I've explained it throughout those various items. Then they came to task number 2 about Agile. They introducing some literature, introducing Agile, benefit of Agile, the framework. Then they start talking about Slack and Trello. Now this is good, but this section here could be improved in terms of the structure. You know, for example, we could talk about various stages of Agile. You know, we might be talking about, I don't know, maybe sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retrospectives, which hasn't been basically presented in that structure, but still they presented a lot of information, which I'll show you now. Question 4 is about a comparing of Agile in Pinbook. And obviously this work that I've done is a bit adjusted question and not the same. There's ethical issues again, not the same, but you need to go and have those sort of sections. And they went all the way down to the list. Great, very, very well looked at. Do not state, I don't know what that means. Actually, do not state task to do during yeah, I'm not very sure about what they mean by that, but it's a very small thing here. List of all of these tables. Introduction, the normal introduction usually will start with the background and you start with talking what this report is talking about. This is a very, very long, you don't need that much of a long introduction, just a background and what this report will cover. They're trying to use website, not Wikipedia, not encyclopedia. So that's a good thing. Business case, there are many structures, but they will give you a potential structure of how they could write a business case, what sort of information to include. So you might want to follow a structure like that. Benefit, time scale, initial project budget, you know, project initiation. They spoke about the charter. Again, it's good. You can create it maybe as a table, make it looks better. But again, they're talking about all of these things that we ask them to go and deliver. And they got that information by really looking at the assignment that we gave them at that time. So if you look at your assignment, you have other requirements, but those requirements will help you to understand what we want you to go and really deliver. So we really go and bear that in mind. We go all the way here and we continue all the way. Milestones, you know, what we want to go and do, technical requirements. You can do it, as I said, as a table. They went as a stakeholder. Who are the stakeholders of our project? That's good. But what they could have done here more is they could have basically put a priority in terms of which stakeholder is more important than the other. Which one is needs to be more informed? Which one needs to, you know, what information do they need? What sort of difficulties do they have with our project? So you need to kind of identify the stakeholders, identify who is internal, who is external, and maybe try to see how you're going to manage those stakeholders. They identify them, which is good, but they haven't spoken much about how you're going to manage them. Planning, they created a plan. Now, if you go and look here, they're trying to create various stages. That's a good thing. But what you need to do when you go and create your plan, you need to basically be very, very specific. So if my plan is relating to ensuring I am going to be delivering those particular requirements, you know, player detail statistics, I need to plan to deliver that. I need to test that. I need to release that. So every one of these things that they want us to do must be incorporated as part of my work breakdown structure plan and the stages that I'm talking about, because otherwise, if you basically don't refer to those items here, you basically remain on a high level, not in the detailed work that is needed to go and be done. So they created the work breakdown structure, then they created the start time and end time, then they assigned the project, the people who are going to go and do the work, and they assigned the predecessors, what comes first and what comes next. And they were able to go and create a costing, because they were able to go and put how much each person gets paid. How much do they pay the director a day? How much do they pay the manager a day? How much do they pay the acceptor? And it all depends on how much work each person is going to go and be doing. So one thing I'm going to be looking at is ensuring when you go and tell me a project director is going to get paid a certain amount of money, I want to consider, is that amount realistic in comparison to how much people today get paid in the market? And that's something really important to go and bear in mind. They create all of this, and you can see they created a detailed, very detailed work breakdown structure, which means they thought about how are we going to be delivering every one of these items that are really listed here. They thought about them. They thought about what do they want us to do, and they made sure that they focus on the delivery of every one of these items across the various stages of project management. All the way down the Gantt chart, which is a graphical view of the plan that, you know, they got that from Microsoft Project. And you can see how all of these items on the critical path are in red, which means we cannot delay those items. Otherwise, the project will be delayed. All the way down, they created a budget, and that budget is a summary of that budget they basically allocated here in terms of the people and how much each person will need to go and get paid using my, you know, which was allocated in Microsoft Project. So they created that budget in summary, you know, resources, whatever they need, the cost, utility, they put all of this information, and they tried to show me that they've done some research in terms of the costing of the various items that they basically estimated. So you can see they're putting summary tables all the way through. Risk analysis, they're basically putting more than one level: likelihood, impact, difficulty. So you might be able to put colors here depending on which one is highest and which one is lowest risk, but they're putting a response, mitigation response, which is what we're going to do to be able to prevent the risk from occurring. They put a contingency plan. What are we going to be doing if the risk end up becoming a reality? What is going to be the point that is going to trigger that we take an action? Who is responsible for doing an action? They're basically putting all of that information in their risk. Execution, they want to communicate with the people. They're putting all of these communication plan, monitoring, controlling what they're going to do, not much there. And closing the project, what needs to be done when they close it. Again, they haven't really done these in details, but at least they did cover a lot of information earlier. When we come to Agile, it's the same concept, but you might need to go and use different stages, because there's, you know, sprint planning, sprint retrospective, sprint reviews, are various steps we could go and really try to bear in mind. But if we go and think, they're talking about, you know, research, you know, introduction, research, benefits. They haven't put in research here. They could have done research here. Agile framework implementation. Again, there's research, but there's no need to repeat the same research here and here, because it's, you basically would just put it once. But you can see all of this research. They're using US English instead of UK English, something that I encourage you to try to avoid if you can. They're thinking about all of these steps that I told you earlier in the daily Scrum meeting: sprint review, sprint retrospective, sprint planning, release planning. These are the steps that I told you about earlier. They're showing me all of these items in Slack. They're showing how things move across more than one stage, but they're using standard naming conventions here. They're putting all of these images to show you how things move across more than one steps to get a job done. They're basically talking about which features they need to go and deliver. They basically show me details inside the feature. You know how I told you to create a checklist earlier today? They're creating checklists to show me that work needs to be done to make sure the job is completed. And they're showing more than one sprint, sprint 1, sprint 2. People are going to be working on that. They're talking about Slack and show me all the communication they've done. I deleted a lot of them, but they need to show me all the communication in Slack. And obviously they need to go and be making sure they're doing, the extra part, which is about conclusion. Sorry, the other question, the comparison of Agile and Pinbook. They've done research here, which is good. And then they did, ethical issues. Again, they've done it based on research, which is good. More than one research. That's really what I like. It's like a postgraduate assessment. The conclusion, and finally the referencing, which is in the correct format. Just something to bear. Actually, it's not fully the correct format, but you need to bear in mind what is the correct referencing format that we are using in KOI. And they've done a lot of research, and there's activity log, what everybody has done, the contribution of each people. And one thing that I asked him to do, which is the table of percentage contribution. They haven't put that. So I really encourage you to go and put that table of percentage of contribution. I'm going to go and show you another assignment that is really better, which is assignment number 3. I'm going to show you that, and you can see what the difference between this and the other one. Again, there's a table of content. There's an executive summary. Again, there's a section here. Again, you will find a table of figures. Same thing, introduction, whatever they're doing, charter, they created tables. Planning, they thought about the work that needs to be done. So they tried to go and think about the various stages again. Again, a lot of details. They went all the way down. They created the Gantt chart, the budget, again, the summary. They needed to kind of show me that the wages that are basically explained are basically appropriate. So for example, a project manager, how much does a project manager gets paid an hour? They needed to make sure there is a realistic information there. They look at various people. Again, the budget, summary, stable. So all of this is really great work. In terms of risk management, they thought about, the first file had a better risk management risk register than this one, because the other one did more information. You go and see here the execution. Okay, this is wrong here. This is wrong because the daily stand-up meeting and the project status report, this is more sort of things related to agile project management. So they have done a mistake in this one here, but they try to think about the other item, research about monitoring, controlling, research about closing the project. They try to do more work than the other group. But here, this is the one that they've done really, really well. When we want to go and try to understand which user stories I need to go and develop, I need to ask myself this question: who could be using my system? So what these guys did is they went and tried to think about who could be using that system. They thought about, for their assignment, they could have super users, volunteers, coordinators. They thought about, shift leaders. They think about general users. They put all of these people, and they tried to go and think about, how could I define every one of those users? What does every one of these users really go and do? And after they defined them, they started writing user stories about them, which is what features do people need to do. And when you look at the feature, they incorporate 3 things in the feature. First of all, we need to know who we are talking about. In this example, as a super user, we need to know, what do they want to do? I want to create logins based on the user type. And they wanted to know why it's been done, so that they are able to go and log into the application. So there are 3 things that they are actually creating there. Who is the user? What do they want to go and do? and why do they want to do it. And then they created some criteria that will help them to go and verify that that feature is being done. So when we go and release that feature, how do we know when it's done? Well, the super user will come in, they will try to access the website, they will try to go and access a form to create a login. They will try to go and fill the basic user and login information. They should be able to then be able to go and select the access type based on their role, and they'll be able to go and log in. So they created from the beginning, how will we confirm that that user story or that feature has actually been delivered? So that's what you guys need to be working on for the second part of your assignment, not the PIM book, the second part. You need to create that user acceptance criteria. But the first thing is you need to define who are the users of the system, who is going to be using that thing, that CRM system you're developing. And then you start creating all of these user stories. You know, super user one, as a super user, I want to do this, another user story, another user story. You go all the way and you see, okay, we're now creating a story for another user. It's a volunteer. Then you go and see another user, program coordinator, and you see another user, home visit coordinator. So you can see how they created different stories. In other words, different features that we need to go and try to deliver. And in creating those features, they thought about three things. Who is the user? What do they want to do? And why do they want to go and do it? What's the purpose of what they're trying to go and deliver? Then they thought about other sort of stages, implementation, product vision that I told you to go and create, the roadmap, you know, what are we going to be doing? The product backlog, this is all the features we have to do, the, you know, various stages and how things move across. This is all the items relating to sprint 1. This is all the items relating to sprint 2. They're thinking how things move across various stages. They're trying to put checklists, acceptance criteria, like I've mentioned earlier. Daily sprint scrum, which is what happens every day, sprint development. They here mentioned this daily scrum meeting, and they showed research about this. They showed, you know, details about every story. This is from Trello, guys. All the way down to put, you know, the definition or the comparison of Agile and PMBOK. Again, there's research. Not enough research, I have to say, only one research they used for this item. They could have done much more there. And again, the ethical issues. And again, they've done some research here about the ethical issues. Finally, conclusion and referencing. And you can see clearly the table of show me how much each person contributed. Clearly showing what every person have done as a summary. And I can see all of their communication across various periods of time. So it is really much more extensive, and it starts by having the right information, which is, let's try to go and define who are the users of my system, which is what they have done in this section here. They thought about the users first before they wrote any user story. Now, is what I'm explaining clear? Is there anything you're not sure about in terms of what we need to do here? All right, thank you for confirming your understanding about what needs to be done. Now, last week, I asked you to define the system users, and I asked you to write some user stories relating to those users. Did anybody identify any users of that system based on the subject outline I showed you last week, which have the requirements and talks about what we're doing? Did anyone define any users for that particular assignment? Did anyone think about any users? No one yet? Okay. What I want you to go and do then, I'm going to put you with the breakout rooms with your teams now. I want one of you to potentially create maybe a, I don't know, Google Sheet, if you want, where you can collaborate all of you at the same time. I need one person to be sharing their screen in their individual breakout rooms. And I need you to start working as a group to start thinking about some of the users of that system you're developing. I need you to define one user as a minimum. Then I need you to write a story about the actual user. And you have to write it in the format I've explained earlier, which is you need to define who the user is. You need to define what you want to go and do. I want to do things. And you need to go and explain why you want to do it, which is so that you can achieve a particular outcome. So I want you to go and define a user. I want you to then write a user story about that user. And I need you to go and think about how can we develop an acceptance criteria, which is how can we go and have a list, maybe checklist that verifies for me that a particular story has actually been delivered or a particular feature has actually been delivered. Now we'll talk about Trello later and about adding that to Trello. We'll talk about that a bit later, but I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms now to be able to go and work on that activity. I will give you 20 minutes to be able to come up with something. If you need any help, you let me know, you call me in, I'll come and I'll try to guide you individually about anything you need. But I'm going to give you a solid 20 minutes where at least I need one user, at least I need one user story, and at least I need one list of acceptance criteria for that user story. Is everything clear on that?
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right, guys, welcome back from the breakout room. I gave you time to be able to go and identify users. Could you guys tell me one user that you've identified by looking at the information in this assignment? Who is one user you could think about? One user. Coach. Okay, can you try to,
manager.
can you please give me an explanation of what the coach mean? Same as when I show you. If you look at this assignment number 3, you can see we're explaining that role. So you need to explain to me, what does a coach, what does that person do?
He trains the team and the.
Yeah. Trains the team and monitor their performance.
Yeah, guides like what to do and how. And
Leading the
also
team. Leading
yeah.
the player.
Leading the players. Okay, that's fine. Now, you know that you have a coach. Write me. The second thing is I want you to write me a story about a coach as a what? As a what? If you're writing a story about the coach, what would you write? As a what?
As a coach.
As a coach. I want to do what? What does the coach want to do?
I want to add a player's statistics, update the details.
I want to check a player statistics. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it can be.
I want to check a player statistics. Why? So that I can what?
Assign the appropriate player for a game.
Okay, so that I can assign the appropriate player to the game. Okay, how would you verify that this user story has been delivered? As a coach, what should the coach be able to do? Give me a checklist.
Able to see the statistic required.
Well, first of all, he needs to be able to log into the system.
Yeah, able
Then
to
they
do
need
the
to be
login.
able to run a report. Correct?
Yeah.
Then you need to be able to check the statistics of each player. That's your checklist to make sure you verify that something has been actually delivered. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Giovanna, Did you identify any different user?
Club manager.
As a manager. Okay, great. Can you tell me something that the manager wants to do as a manager?
The club manager, right?
Whoever you want. I don't define the user. You guys define the users. You guys need to look at these features and this information, and you need to guys define who are the users based on what you find and what you analyze.
Right. So as a club manager, I want to have the full access to see the details of the players and add new team details and yeah.
So as a club manager, I want to log in and see users details.
Yes.
So that why? What's the reason? So that you can do what?
I don't know.
Well, that's what you need to think about, because
Correct.
there's one part of the user story is missing.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to think what, like, look at this, what are we trying to do? And then think, okay, what do they need to do based on what we're trying to go and make sure they are going to be having.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Okay, Tasmia and Siram. Tasmia and Siram,
Yes, sir.
do you guys have any questions?
No, sir.
You understand what we're doing?
Yes, sir. I
Yes, sir.
understand.
All right, so the first thing is user stories. Then we talk about creating the, the first thing, defining the users. Then first, and then you write user stories. Then you write the acceptance criteria. Table format is great, but that's really the first thing I needed to go and do. I'm going to come back to another thing I want you to go and do, but at least we basically start having that knowledge. Now we need to go to Trello, and we need to add the user stories in Trello. So if I go to Trello, for example, let's say I go to my system. If I go here, and if I go to Trello, if you told me a story about a coach, so I'm going to edit this. Okay. I don't know, coach reporting ability or running report ability, because you told me you want to do that. So we say, as a coach, I want to be able to run reports about my teams, my players' performance, so that I can choose the team for the next game. Okay, and then what you can do basically there, you might want to go and say, all right, I want to add a checklist. For example, you want to say an acceptance criteria. For example, if you want, you can say, all right, I'm going to add an acceptance criteria. And then that acceptance criteria, you might say, coach can log in to the website. Coach can run a report. Coach can check the performance of each player. And you might even then, when you want to check it, you basically give it as, all right, all the checklist has been done. But this is really bottom line. You're basically moving, and you can assign someone here as a member for that, and you can put a priority and put deadlines, and you do whatever you would like. And then that basically will mean you have that backlog item that is actually available. So that's what it means when I say move it and put it in Trello and put all the details in Trello. That's what you need to go and be doing. The first thing you do, as I showed you in those assignments, you start with all the backlog, and you start thinking about which features you can combine together to work on in a particular sprint. And you basically work on more than one feature across more than one sprint that we're trying to go and work on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go and create the Kanban board, it's a very, very easy job to go and do. You can buy a roll 3 by 1 meters. You can, have a 50 sticky notes in small sticky note cards. You can put all of these, imagine big roll here and big roll underneath it, like 2 big rolls on the wall. You then make lines in this line. So actually, I'm going to show it to you in a different manner so that you can understand what I'm talking about. If you see on the blackboard, you might be able to create a paper. Imagine that's a paper I go and create. Imagine that's a board. I can create that board. I can then divide the board, put lines. This is one section. It's another section, third section, fourth section, whatever you do, whatever you want. And you basically create a section to have the, user story. You could be the, the backlog here. You create all of these user stories and you can use basically the sticky notes here. So all of these are user stories. You basically as a note. And then as you basically start ready, you start having more than one stage, sprint one, sprint one, sprint one, whatever stage of that sprint one it is. You basically could move all of these sticky notes to any sprint to be able to go and work on at any particular point of time. So this is a sticky notes. And this is like the big board. And you basically split this big board and you basically leave space between the boards, because what if you decide that that stage needs to be divided into 2? You leave space between the boards so that you can add other stages where you can put your sticky notes at any point of time. So that's really what, in summary, what we can do. We can really create those roles, make all of these line strips and divide the column in whatever stages I want. It could be ideas to do in progress and done stages, or you can add more stages if you believe it's going to be needed. You need to leave plenty of space to expand and adjust the number of columns. As I told you, write up the task on a sticky note card on the wall, if it's on a wall in your work, and then you can put that sticky note on whatever stage that is really relevant, and you can organize them based on the priority. Which sticky note feature is more important than others that we need to go and work on first, and which one we can go and work on a bit later. And once you do all of these things, you're ready to go and you'll be able to go and work on the other items. Now, with Kanban, there is an agreed limit to a total number of tasks. Usually you put a maximum of 4 items in a work in progress limit. Sometimes they put more. The reason why you put the limit is because you don't want to encourage people to go and complete 99% of the task and leave the remaining information incomplete. You want to make sure everything is actually being completed the way it should be completed. The limit could be applied, could be individuals might decide the limit, the team might decide as a group the limit. And it basically helps us ensure that instead of having a 99% completed, we actually ensure the work is actually fully completed and delivered as we want it to go and be delivered. We go and deliver continuous improvements. It's very, very important part of the Kanban. It's about how do we continuously deliver the improvements we would like to go and do. And we ensure that any work in progress limits that is set up, it forces the team to finish the tasks before we move and do another particular activity. Now, in summary for this chapter, we spoke about the vision, that needs to be clear, everybody understand. We spoke about value. We need to develop a shared understanding of what it really means. And that value is really based on what the client really wants you to go and do. We have the backlog. It's very important to have a very good quality backlog that clearly explain the steps that we're trying to go and do. We need that backlog to make sure the steps are understood by everybody throughout the work. We need to do a minimum viable product because as a minimum, there need to be a feature that is ready for the client to go and use. We don't simply want to give them a login page. We have to give them much more things they are able to go and benefit from. And we need to go and always work out the acceptance criteria up front, start with the end in mind. So we need to know how are we going to making sure that the job that needs to be done has actually go and been done appropriately. So it's really about thinking about all of these items in details. We spoke about Kanban. The Kanban board is at the heart of the operation. It gets started by visualizing the as is workflow and what people are really doing, limit the work in progress for maximum efficiency. We do not want to leave any simplicity, make it seem as a Kanban is not a good system or it doesn't give us right information. It's actually very, very good. It actually helps us to go and make very, very clear and very visible what anybody is working at any point of time. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to open slack.com. I want you to go and continue engaging as a group in that slack.com. That's the first thing I would like you to go and do. Anybody would like to go and share their screen and show me what they've done in terms of engaging with the team on Slack at that point of time? Do you want to share your screen and show me what communication you've had so far? Let's have a look, guys. Anybody would like to show me their screen? Niraj, can you show me your screen? All right, so open Slack and show us the communication you're having there.
Yeah, this is the Slack, but we haven't done much communication here, but
Okay.
we have done something else. I mean, other communication related to the, not related to the project.
Well, that assignment, all the communication must be happening for the Agile section, must be happening on this system. And I expect all of these pictures to be incorporated. So you have a few weeks to go and you need to make sure you're putting that communication because that needs to go directly into your assignment to show us who's doing what and how you guys are communicating. Okay, so if you guys are not engaging in that system, you need to engage, and that applies to everybody in Niraj.
All right.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna now encourage you to continue engaging in that particular system. I want you to go and make sure you're gonna engaging in Slack. So if you haven't done so, maybe you open that system and you start engaging. But I want you to open your group assignment document. And if you haven't created a group assignment document, I want you to create one and then at least create the structure, the summary of the whole assignment. At least maybe the second section, the Agile, the Slack section. Create your structure if you want based on the example reports that I showed you. Start creating your structure now and the time that we have remaining. And I'm going to go in the next 15 minutes or so to see what structure you guys have created so far for that part of the assignment. And then once you do that, if you basically have finished, you can start moving things. If you have a sprints already created, you can start moving them in terms of various stages of your report. For example, you might have a sprint planning section, sprint review section, sprint retrospective section. You can start transferring things to various sections in terms of your work. But what I'll do, I'll put you in your breakout rooms again. The first thing is let's start creating a structure. And once you do that, you can continue working on the other items, such as creating new user stories and the other items you need to work on. So I'm going to put you again in your breakout rooms for the next 15 minutes. Anybody have any question before I put you in that room to be able to work with your team? All clear? Again, if you want to go and find the information about what structures you can go and use, you go again to Moodle, and on Moodle, you'll find there are 3 samples available there for you. You guys are able to go and open those samples and decide accordingly what you want to go and do there, which structure you're going to go and follow. So I'm going to open all rooms now. Please join them and continue working on the structure now. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome back. And thank you very much for working on a breakout room on the various activities you need to do. My question is, does anybody have any question about the structure, about what you need to do in the Trello and Slack, and how you write your user story, and how you define a user story, on how do you go and actually write an acceptance criteria? Do you have any questions at all you want to ask me about before I'll let you go for this week? Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, no problem. Guys, thank you very much for all your time today. Your task for this week is review the lecture slides and tutorial materials and the notes you've taken, read chapter 4 and continue working on a group assessment, which is basically due in a couple of weeks now. I want to thank you very kindly for all your hard work and dedication constantly in the subject. I want to ask you to continue working every week. Come every week. We'll give you again more time to work on your assignment next week. We'll cover again some content. We'll ask questions. We'll allow you to show me what you're working on, because then I can give you, as we are progressing, I'll give you feedback on the work that you've done. And that's why it's very important to show me what you've done and get it ready in the classroom, because as you show me in the classroom, I'll give you the same feedback that I give to other people, and I'll try to go and help you out. So continue working on it. It requires a lot of work, especially the first part, if you haven't already started working on the first part. And let's try to go and make sure we get you to go and understand what needs to be done and help you to go and make all the improvements that are going to be needing. Again, thank you very kindly for all your hard work, and I look forward to see you again next week. Thank you.